Tuesday night, I gave the order for British forces to take part in military action in Iraq. Tonight,
American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
Mass destruction.
So my name's Gary. I'm a tank commander. Just got back from Iraq. I know what you're maybe thinking. You're maybe thinking, Gary, you've not been to Iraq. And to be fair, the tan has faded, right? But see, when I first got back, folk were like, Gary, that is a cracking tan. Have you been on holiday? And I'm like, no, that's just from the work.
Hiya, how you getting on? It's just another sunny day in Barsha. What's it like, lads? Wee barbecue? Quality.
I suppose it all started with that 9/10/11. Do you remember that? Where those Rajis took the planes for like a joyride, flew them into the buildings. Do you know what Raj is? Well, it's maybe a word I would use or whatever, maybe it's a Scottish word, but a Raj, right, is basically someone that would say to you something like, oh, how you getting on? Or how you doing? How's your family doing? Or you getting on? How's your brother? Oh, it's good to see you again. Stab, right? That's basically what a Raj is. Anyway, so they did that and put them into buildings, and that's when George Bush.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended.
That's when he got really annoyed, like, because of all the dust, and then everyone was, do you remember, it was one of these things when everyone was like, oh, where were you when it happened? A bit like in the 60s when that guy got shot, for the Bee Gees, and everyone's like, oh, where were you when it happened? It was like that. It was there. But I honestly can't remember where I was. I mean, obviously I wasn't in New York, I would have remembered that, Right. The reason I joined up, right, we used to play as soldiers all the time, but it wasn't like bang bang your deed soldiers. It was more like, what do you reckon the biggest ball bearing is we could fit in this air gun soldiers. Do you know what I mean, right? And shiz. There was this one time, right, this boy, Davy P, right, he got shot in the balls, right in the balls, right, and I'm not saying who done it. Let's just say it was a sharpshooter. It was me, right. What happened was, right, we used to have this like lookout post up on the 4th floor, right, and it would look down on the, like, the kind of square bit with the play park, and then you had the community centre like behind, right. So one day we see Davy P, right, he'd come out the community centre. I think he'd been to the Scouts because he was limping heavily. Anyway, so he comes up and in the square, right, and I've got the air rifle, right. So I'm looking down, right, and I'm like that. I have got Davy P in my sights. I repeat, I have got Davy P in my sights. Permission to fire. I never needed permission to fire. I was going to shoot him anyway, right. So I see him, right, and I'm just like, I follow him along, and I'm just like, boom, bam, right in the balls. Like, right in the balls, right? And he falls, and it was like in slow motion that he fell, and he was like, oh, like that. It was maybe higher pitched, actually, because I'd got him, like, right in the balls, and he was like, oh. Anyway, about 3 hours after that, right, his dad came round to see my dad, right, and he says to him, listen, Gary's just shot Davy P in the balls, right? So my dad said to him, listen, I'm really sorry about that. I'll kick fuck out of Gary after the football's finished, but he never. He just sat me down, and he was like, how far away were you when you shot Davy P in the balls? And I said, well, up on the 4th floor. And he said, well, maybe that's something you could think about, like as a career. And I said, what, shooting Davy P in the balls? And he said, no, like the army.
We're gonna get funky. Funky. Everybody clap your hands.
Then somebody had said that Iraq had these like massive weapons that could destruct anything, right? But the thing was that Saddam couldn't find them, so George sent in Hans to see if he could help Saddam find his weapons of mass destruction, right? So then Hans Blix, right, he goes back to George Bush, right, and says, listen, Saddam's having a total nightmare. He can't find mugs for a cup of tea, let alone weapons of mass destruction. But basically, George wasn't having any of it, right? He was basically jealous because he thought that Saddam had like a new tool, right? And George was like that to Saddam, I'll put your tool down. And Saddam's like, I can't even find it. What? I can't put it down. And then George was like, Saddam, you're lying. And Saddam was like, George, just get to fuck. I can't be doing with this. And George was like, Saddam, listen, I'm going to batter you. And Saddam was like, George, just get to, right? And George was like, I'm serious. And Saddam's like, you couldn't batter me. Your dad came and battered me. I battered Kuwait on my own, right? And George was like, you want to step outside, Saddam? And Saddam's like, let's step outside. Let's do this, right? Let's do it. Let's do it right now. And George's like, you want to step outside? I'm going to embarrass you in front of your pals. And Saddam's like, you're fully shite. You're fully shite, George. Let's do it outside right now, right? So they get outside and George is like, somebody hold me back. Somebody hold me back. Somebody hold me back. That's what he was saying, eh? And then he was like, Tony, you get involved. And everyone was like that to Tony. Tony, don't get involved with George. He's a fucking Raj. Leave it, Tony, eh? That was the thing, but Tony was thinking, well, I better step in for George, right? Because if China ever wants a square go, he'll need to step in for me, eh? Because this is what it's all about. It's all about China, right? Because if China suddenly realise and go, oh, hold on a minute here, I've got the largest crew, and most of them are martial arts trained, my money would always be on China, eh? And I love Chinese food. Their chips are brilliant, eh?
Fish, man, that was fish. That was rubbish. Right, Jacko, get him back.
I don't think my family wanted to believe that I was going to Iraq. Like, I think maybe they thought I was making it up, but I wasn't. There is a war on. I mean, it's no conspiracy. Well, if it is, it's fucking massive, right?
Hiya.
Fucking hell. Jesus Christ, it's fucking dark.
Don't embarrass me.
Well, don't just stand there in the cemetery. Come in.
It was kind of weird, right? Because my dad, when he knew I was going out, he asked me to bring back like a Jerry Sand as a memento. But once I got out there, I forgot all about it. Because once people are shooting at you and chucking rocks at you, you're not like that. Oh, hold on a minute here, I just need to get Jerry Sand from my dad, you know?
No, I've got nothing in. Oh no, wait a minute, I've got some mini Kievs in the fridge.
Seriously? Anyway, I got back, right, but I never had the sand for him, so I thought, well, what can I do about this? And I thought, well, I could just go down to B&Q and just get a big bag of sand and like some jam jars and make a thing of it, like give them out to my aunties and uncles or for Christmas, you know, like for presents. So I went down, I got the bag of sand and my jam jars and I filled them up, and then I put labels on them as well. I put Baghdad and Basra, and I even put East Kilbride on one, like to see if they'd notice. And I gave them out to my aunties and uncles on Christmas Day, right? And they were like, oh, Gary, we're so proud. And they started like comparing, saying, oh, who did you get? Oh, I got Basra. Who did you get? Oh, I got Baghdad. And then they said, who did you get? And they were like, one of them said, oh, I got East Kilbride. That's a dangerous province, Gary. I've seen that on the news. I was like, that. Idiots.
The threat from Saddam Hussein and weapons of mass destruction, chemical, biological, potentially nuclear weapons capability, that threat is real.
A lot of folk do blame Tony Blair, and I've actually met him. Because I was invited down to number 10 for this thing for like just kind of war heroes and stuff like that. Eventually he comes up to me and he says, I can't do the voice. I'll try it. He says to me, hiya, I'm Tony. And I'm like, aye, whatever, I know who you are. Anyway, I was talking to him, right? I was talking to Tony Blair, but this will sound weird. A pal of mine, right, Donny Jr., claimed that his dad, Donny Sr., had battered Tony Blair when he was at school in Edinburgh, right? And he said that his dad had stolen an ice hockey stick off of Tony Blair. And he'd said this like months before, right? So I said to Donny Jr., that's rubbish, he never did that, let me see the ice hockey stick. And then he was like, oh, my dad's got it in the house, or whatever. Anyway, so I'm talking to Blair, but that's all I can think about. I'm just thinking about this ice hockey stick. So Blair's there saying whatever, well done for just, you know, being brilliant and all the rest of it. And in my head, I'm just thinking about this ice hockey stick, and I'm just thinking, Gary, don't say anything. Gary, just leave it. Gary, it's the Prime Minister, just done it. Gary, done it. Gary, just honestly. And then I was like, Tony, see when you were younger, did a wee freaky guy with a limp bat you and steal an ice hockey stick off you? And Blair like stops in his tracks, like completely stops. And he just looks at me and he's like, that, actually, yes. When I was at school, and I says, well, I know who done it. It was Donny Senior. He's got your ice hockey stick in the house, right? And Blair was like that. Oh, well, maybe I'll get MI5 onto him. And I said, well, if you did, you'd really need to watch your back, because he's a bit of a fucking raj, you know that way? So then Blair, right, this is true, Blair leans into me then, and he says, well, maybe I'll just leave it then. I've got enough rages after me as it is. I swear to God, right, Tony Blair said Raj to me. And I was like that, Tony, you may have been lying through your teeth for the last 6 years to take us to a war where thousands of innocent people have died in pursuit of oil and to keep relations healthy with America. But you're all right. And then I had a wee bit of puff pastry on it with tuna. I was steaming.
One, two, three, four, five. Everybody in the car, so come on, let's ride to the liquor store around the corner. The boys say they want some gin and juice, but I really don't wanna.
The first thing that hits you, it's the heat. It's like hotter than a hot bath. It's like really, it's just hot, but it's that way. It's a bit like working in a chip shop, right? You get hot, but you just get on with it. It's no like Mallorca or whatever, because you can be really unlucky with Mallorca, right? I was there a couple of years ago, went to Santa Ponsa, and it was overcast for the first 4 days. And I was only there for 14, I was like, well, what's the point in this? Shocking, eh? And I thought about asking maybe they could change us to a different hotel, but I never bothered, but don't know. But I suppose if it's sunshine you're after, you'd be hard pushed to beat Iraq. Because what was it they said about Prince Harry? They didn't want him to go out to Iraq because they thought he might be like a danger to himself and others around him, and that just made me think, it must be rubbish. You know that way? Because they let most folk like go out. It must be really, really bad. The thing is with the Americans is they want to be the best at everything. Like shooting folk, blowing stuff up, basketball, right, you name it, right? And that's up to them, but you just look at some of the stuff they do, like, remember that statue of Saddam Hussein, right? And then one of the American troops gets on a ladder and goes up the ladder and puts like an American flag round the statue of Saddam, round its eyes. And I was thinking,